Hey there, for this video I've just made this dilapidated rundown sort of roadside service station, gas station, whatever you want to call it. It's part one of a two-part series videos that I'm going to do because I've got to put it on a diorama. I can't leave it as it is. It's got no base, it's got nothing inside. It's just the rough exterior, but it's a very easy build. And cardboard is an excellent forgiving medium to work with, and you can play around with it. And even if you are a beginner, you can do this because it's just really, really easy to do. I'm not just saying that, it's true. So I hope you get something out of this, and I hope you enjoy the video. I've drawn up the shape of the building that I want. I've used very heavy cardboard with really wide corrugations. You just cut these out and keep them. I use the holes as templates just to draw them briefly to save me having to measure anything. So I measure one, I've got them all, and hang on to the pieces you cut out so you can use them to make your door and window frames if you want to do it that way. Once I've got all the doors and windows cut out, I can just hot glue this together and make it really nice and stable. I'm putting this top on. I just went down the crease of one of the corrugations so I can get an angle nice and easy. It's just going to give stability to it to make it really strong. And just put these peaks of the roof on. I don't even know what that part of the building's called. Pop the roof on. It's just a really basic structure. It's going to be covered with shingles and all sorts of details, so you're not going to notice the ugly looking cardboard mistakes and the way I've poorly done it. Using a knife, you can really push and manipulate the cardboard and soften it and shape it, give it kind of like a beveled edge, push it into line where it might be out of place. You don't have to be a whiz at measuring. I can't measure to save my life, so I get away with making cardboard structures that look really good. As you can see, the edge, just push it down. Everything just becomes nice and even this way. It's a nice little cheat. Just a little front. And the roof, I forgot to put the front on this, so later on I just extended out the front, just an awning. Same shape, just a bit longer out the front. And that's the basic structure. It's super easy. And basically no measuring. I won't be putting a base on this because I want to work from the inside, putting the windows and the plastic inside and all sorts of stuff, so leave that until you are finished and ready to put it on a base. I'm drawing in just the grain in the wood. I use a pen because there's not much drag. You'll find when you're new to using cardboard you can cut through it accidentally, so pens are really good to avoid that. Once you've done it absolutely everywhere, you can get some scissors, and these will sort of very lightly almost score. They don't quite go through. You've got to get just the right pressure, but they'll give even better lines and texture and make it look even more like wood. There's many ways of doing this kind of thing, but this one works well. And I'm going to cut in between each of the corrugations instead of making individual sheets or pieces to make the wood and the boards. I'm going to cut them in. If you just angle it and you can see in between each one. Depending on the size of the boards you want to make, it will be the size of the corrugations you choose on your cardboard that you use. Using a pen now just to push in between each one, and it will just slightly separate them and give the appearance of individual boards. This is a super easy way to do this, and it looks really good when you're done too. Don't worry about being messy. You want to be messy if you're making an old building. Comes up great. And it's quick. I'm just going to put some little coffee stirrers in here because I wanted to stabilise the inside. It's a little bit wobbly and I'm concerned that me handling it will weaken the cardboard over time. So I'm just strengthening it so I can work with it and flip it around as I need to. I'm going to put some shingles on the roof using some cardboard from a tissue box. There's just something really good about this cardboard. It's flexible yet strong, and it's just the right thickness for a lot of jobs, but especially shingles. Just cut a strip and then very roughly just hack it all the way up unevenly. Unless you're doing something neat like a doll's house, you want to do this nice and rough. and just lay them on and snip them off after you've put them on. No need to measure them up and then put them on. Cut them to the angle that you need. I used hot glue to do these. You could just use regular glue, but depends on how fast you want to make your building or how good you are at not making webs with a hot glue gun, which a lot of you know is very messy. It's a nice quick way to do a roof and cover up bad angles like I've been doing on my roof. And just keep going until it's all nice and as evenly as possibly covered. And that's that done. I'm just going to make the little bit that goes across the top. I didn't have enough tissue paper or cardboard, so I improvised to make these pieces. I just scored a line down the centre with a knife, and then I slid a ruler up underneath it just to try and fold it in half, because if you use your fingers too much you'll start making it a little bit wonky looking. So this helps give it a nice even long crease, because you want the top of that roof to be nice and straight, otherwise it'll throw the appearance off of the way the roof looks. Nice, tidy, easy way of just putting it all together. Tissue box paper, cardboard is really underrated. It's a great thing to work with as well. I'm just going to do some corrugated cardboard. It's just a pizza box, which is, I don't know, there's something excellent about this cardboard as well. I could talk about cardboard all day, but there's something really good about this one, and it's easy to clean up, and yeah, it's great for working with and making corrugations. Just tied it up with a really stiff bristled brush, and then I just glue it down. I used hot glue for this too because I want it to be able to be lifting in some places, so when I cut it with a knife like this to make the individual pieces of corrugated iron, I can just lift them up and make it all look like they're all separate, but they're not. It's another quick, easy cheat. This is just, I don't know, I spend all my time figuring out ways how to not waste time while I'm doing things. A quick spray of black matte. It will really seal it, plus get inside all the corrugations so there's no ugly appearance of cardboard, because you don't want it to look like cardboard, you want it to look like wood. And that's it, ready to start getting some nice paint down in detail, except for this bit, which is really uneven. So I cut a piece and angled it so it'll be higher on one side and lower on the other, and just even that front facing piece out. You don't have to be good at building, you just have to be good at fixing mistakes. Just this ugly looking, I don't know, arsenic green I'll call it, because it's that sort of green colour you get on wood when it's been treated. And I'm just going to just apply it everywhere. It's just like a heavy dry brush. Every layer I put on this is like a heavy dry brush. I'm putting down a light colour because I want to keep the shadow underneath, but I want to be able to add colour later. And this is the base, just to kind of allow the colour that goes on to be brighter than it would be sitting on a dark base. Be nice and rough, it doesn't matter if it's uneven. That gives the appearance that paint has been applied in layers over years and, you know, peeling away. And that's it, ready to start putting colour on. Well, almost. I put this sort of a cream colour on as well. I think it just wasn't dark enough. I just had to lighten it enough, otherwise when I put colour on, it's just, you're not going to be able to see it. It will kind of absorb itself into the black. Just do a crisscross pattern as you paint so you don't make ugly brush strokes. You could almost leave it like this. It looks like, you know, paint has just almost completely come away. And this yellow, it's horribly bright looking, but I muted it with some brown, and then I did another dry brushing of cream on top of it. And this is a red ochre. I wouldn't go using a straight up bright coloured red on anything like this. It would look really strange. Unless of course you're going to darken it up later and take that colour back out of it. I'm a bit funny when it comes to using colours because they can go bad very, very fast. Just a bit of rust, very roughly done. I am going to neaten everything up later. You can see the brown that I have done all over it and on the roof just to mute the colours because it was just too bright. And then the dry brushing. I mean, all of this is quite roughly done because I need to put this together later as an entire diorama, and this is basically just the rough shell, so I'm not doing anything too fancy with this this first video. It's a very, very basic how-to. You can see that looking very aged now. It looks really nice. Do use very flat paints. You don't want shine coming up on the cardboard because it won't look like wood anymore. Once again, using crisscrossing brush strokes so it avoids patterns being formed that will just pull the eye in and ruins the illusion of something being miniaturized. You can see how rough my work is there. I will find ways of disguising that later on, like I do with everything. It looks a little bit light now, but you want it to be a little bit lighter if you're going to make it. Okay, I'm going to do a dirty wash on this entirely when the diorama is done. So if you're going to do that to it, you do want it to be lighter, otherwise it's going to become so dark it'll be unrecognisable to what you want to make. These little doors are balsa wood. The door handles are just the end of these little fancy toothpicks. Nice and blurry there. Just cut them off and stuck them in a little hole I made. Used pencil just to draw nice and heavy, angled the pencil to make it look a little bit beveled, just to draw in any pattern you want for a door. The one with a hole in it, I just put some bits of toothpick around the outside and nice and, yeah, really straightforward, but they come up good. Drop them in a dirty, dark black and brown water-based wash. And when they dry, they really look, well, they're made of wood, so they would look like wood, but they look very much miniaturized, which is what I'm after. You can see the grain in it and the way I angled them to dry so it would run to the base so it looks like a dirty sort of old stain running up the door. And this just a cream colour just to very roughly put on. I want it uneven so it once again looks like paint has been applied and peeled away and applied and peeled away over time. You could put colour on these, but I wouldn't get too fancy with something like this. The more you put on it, the more you're going to lose the grain of the wood. I apply from paint with the top down so the bottom stays dirty looking. And these little window frames, just from coffee stirrers, the same treatment. I'm just going to put some of these very soft pencils just to dirty up the door. Just around the bottom, and I did make it dirty around the door handle too, so it looked like, you know, greasy hands have been opening the door over decades. And just these are the nice little details that really make something look fantastic. Adding shadow, adding dirt, and then adding highlights with a lighter one. These pencils are like a fine dry brushing. They're amazing to use. I love them. And a bit of gold on the door handles. I couldn't be bothered trying to make up a brass colour, so gold was good enough. These are just the coffee stirrers. I stained them in a dirty wash and I laid them on top of this piece of plastic because I just thought, how fast can I do this? I laid the plastic down and then I put the coffee stirrers and I glued them down with a thick water-based glue that dries really nice and clear, and they just pop off the plastic this way. They're a bit untidy. I sanded the bottoms and evened them out a little bit, but it worked out. They are very very rough, but I neaten them up like this. I just drew up a little template for the shape of the window and then did the pattern I wanted to make on the glass for the little bits of wood that go across. I don't know what they're called either, but I drew them in with a cream coloured pen. It's one of these paint pens, and then I used a black one. I would have preferred a dark brown, but all I had was black, and I drew in a shadow so that way it will look three-dimensional, not just like cream lines going across the glass. It just gives that little bit extra realism. And they come out really good like this. It's a really nice effect. As you can see, they look great and very, very easy to do. I just broke some of the plastic away, and this is very brittle plastic, and I used a light brown and black paint pen just to draw in a bit of, I stippled it in and used my finger to draw in just some grime and build up around the windows. They look great. I very roughly put a piece of plastic onto this one. You can see it's uneven, but no one will ever see the inside, so it doesn't matter. And a little decal I glued on, and a white fine paint pen just to draw in what would be the little hanger for the sign, and then put it in. It's a really nice looking little door. And now I'm going to put the decals on that I printed out. And they look great. They're just like vintage signs, actual signs that people have taken photos of are good too. And I just cut them out and use that very thick water-based glue, and it dries perfectly clear. And you just pop them on the inside of your windows. You could do them on the outside, but I think they're better on the inside. And you can see it dries clear nicely. You can seal it around the outside a little bit so they never come off. And yeah, I really like these. I just kind of put them everywhere. I'm going to do more in the second video. I just didn't want to have overkill with it like this because there's a lot to do and I'm not sure where I want to go with it just yet. As you can see, I just seal around the outside of it so air won't get in there. When it dries, it won't eventually peel off over time. These dry really quick when you put them on. You've got to be fast. I had a baby wipe handy too to clean up any excess glue so it would have no shine around or on the decal when it dried. You can push nicely into the grooves with a dry brush. You could even use a knife if you wanted to and cut through the decal into the actual boards that you've made so it looks like it's been applied. This would give an effect of something being painted on if you want to put a big decal on an entire sort of wall. Little ones overlapping. This is what I'll be doing a lot more next time. And that's it for this video. These all need to be dirtied up. The signs are just a little too pristine looking, but it doesn't look too bad and I like the shape of it. I've got an awful lot of work to do, but it's going to be the fun stuff. So I hope you got something out of this one, and I do hope to see you next time.